We can turn any NotebookLM notebook with our existing business philosophy into an interactive simulation. We can make it so that the individual interacts inside of the chat area or interacts with studio assets that we designate. We will convert an existing NotebookLM notebook into a simulation in this video. We can write the script ourselves. We're going to start, though, with a script that is already written in NotebookLM inside of the Sherlock Holmes game. You have a sample script made public by Google, who put together the game. You can copy the rules and the front page to two separate Google Docs. We should then have Google Doc. We should then have a second Google Doc for the game rules. We then want to choose the notebook where we're going to run the simulation. We can choose a notebook where we have uploaded our business philosophy into a NotebookLM notebook that a customer will then have access to. It is assumed that the customer will already know the content of the sources. We are going to seek for them to consume the content at a deeper level. We're going to go into Gemini and we're going to attach the NotebookLM notebook. And we're going to add it. We're going to add in our gaming documents. We then want to create an effective prompt to create the game. We're going to do a basic plain language prompt. And what we're going to do is ask for Gemini to give us 3 scenarios that we can present and put inside of our notebook before it creates and recreates the game rules for us. We're going to copy and paste this prompt into the Gemini conversation. You want to use the highest level of prompt that you have in order to execute this request. Gemini will then begin to execute your request. Based on the request we made in our prompt, Gemini has given us 3 scenarios to choose from. So we're going to choose one of these scenarios that we want to create for our simulation. Once we decide on which scenario we're going to choose, Gemini will then generate game rules and then a welcome message. However, in this case, Gemini did not generate the welcome message. We're going to go ahead and save these rules to a Google Doc. We're going to follow up with a request to get NotebookLM to give us the welcome message that we're going to use to customize the notebook. We're going to go to our notebook. We're going to click the Customize button. We're going to set a custom notebook summary. We're going to paste in our front page welcome note. We're then going to click Done. And so our welcome note is now available. One more customization we can also make is to customize for an image, and we can do that inside of Gemini. To do this, we're going to turn on the image creation element. We'll await Gemini to create the image. If you don't like the image, you can edit it. However, we're just going to go ahead and download this image. And our image is then customized. We can then click Done. We now need to input the game rules, which we can get from our post in Gemini. We will go to our notebook. We will then click on the Configure Notebook element. We'll then turn on Custom Configuration. We'll then paste in our custom configuration information from Gemini. What you'll notice is that even though our customizations seem long, we do have up to 10,000 characters. And our rules actually occupied 8,000 characters. And as always, if your prompt ends up being too long, you can always go back to Gemini. You can recreate the prompt, and you want to take a screenshot to let Gemini know just how many characters you may be over or how many you might need to reduce your post by so that it can recreate a new set of instructions. We're going to choose the default response length. We're then going to save the new rules. We're then going to F5 or refresh the notebook. The user is instructed to start the game by typing in #game. We're going to test our game by clicking #game. NotebookLM analyzes our response. You'll see that the scenario goes into game mode. One of the scenarios is a customized business. So we can start with a specific target market, and then NotebookLM will then set up the simulation. We're going to write in our answer. We're going to choose one of these scenarios, and the game acts within the rules that we have set. It now asks us what our target market is, what our current roadblock is, and then which sub-niche we want to build our learning center around. And we are now involved in the game, as you can see. So we can build a simulation to run like a game from within our existing content. We can then prepare our simulation to be shared with others. And whether we're going to have a paid event or we're going to use it inside of a membership, we're going to want to determine how we want to share. And typically what you're going to do is you're going to make it so that anyone with this specific link is then going to have access to our notebook. This then becomes universal for all uses of this notebook. So you are going to want to be sure that you want to use this notebook in this way. One of the ways to enrich the activity in the game is to make sure that the instructions point out where there is help with the studio assets. Now, you will need to create these studio assets on purpose as part of the game. This is not a full-blown tutorial on how to create studio assets in NotebookLM. However, what you can do is you can go into the studio assets and you can rename them. For example, we can rename one studio asset. We can place the letter C in this studio asset. We can then click enter, and then that asset will then be labeled for scenario C. We can go into a different asset. We can rename it for a different scenario, and then we can click enter. That scenario will then be available, or we've made it available, or we generated it to be available for a specific scenario. So we can go to the videos and not just the infographics. We can place in a letter that represents the specific scenario. Once we have our assets appropriately named, it's a good idea that we take a screenshot of this studio area. If we don't have all the names, we can move over the sidebar so we get all the names. We want to take a screenshot of this entire element. So we're going to suggest a prompt. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to suggest that the rules and front page be rewritten slightly according to this scenario and according to the naming convention that we have given the infographics and the videos. So we want Gemini now to rewrite the rules and the front page so we can cut and paste them. We don't want to have edits. We want Gemini to provide us the entire new document. So we're going to upload our screenshot and we're going to place in this prompt to Gemini. So we have now input the new front page matter. We have also input the new rules into the configuration area. So what we now want to do is we want to start the game. We're going to choose a scenario. And once the game mode is activated, you'll notice here that the instructions state that the individual should refer to an infographic before they start the game. And that is what we want in this scenario. We want the individual to enrich their experience by interacting with studio assets that we have created. So we can turn NotebookLM and any content you have created into an interactive business simulation. Okay, so thanks, and I will see you in another video.